Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish recording. Button.
Okay, we've got a Tales from the Vaults here. A story of when Andy left home. Now, this story's got some drug culture in. Are you gonna... So, first of all, you were 16, weren't you? I was 16, yes. But I've been doing... I had sort of a bit of a lifestyle from the age of 13 to 16. Now, when you turn 16 over here in the UK, you could smoke cigarettes. Back then, I think you could smoke cigarettes. And me and my friends, we were sort of sniffing glue in the youth clubs. I stopped because I had a bad experience with that. But when I was 16, and bear in mind I was brought up in a really nice home environment, even though we were in Skem. But my mother was annoyed because she thought I was going down the path that my biological father was going down, which was a bit of a troublesome path, to say the least. But my brother had a bit of a bad dealing with drugs later on. So I was 16 and we used to go on the weekends, because you couldn't drink alcohol. So you would have a lemonade or something. Probably you'd have a sneaky shandy, depending on which club you went to. But it was usually like a bottle of pop and a chocolate bar or something like that. And I wasn't one of the dickheads who kind of went off and smoked. Went off and bought bottles of vodka. I think they were getting Alka-Pops. Because they were very, I think there was the test tubes. WKD was all in fashion. That was the teenage drink. And I was drinking that but it was 17. I think people turned to alcohol when the smoking ban came in. Yeah. How old were you when the smoking ban came in? I was about 22, 23. So I had been smoking for 4 years at that point. But smoking, I was a social smoker. So literally you went out and smoked. Everybody went out and smoked. It was a case, and because we couldn't drink alcohol, we could smoke cigs, which was completely acceptable in the UK. But what everybody else was doing in the UK and nowhere else was we would have weed with our tobacco. Now, it's very, how can I put it? It's more gentlemanlike, as they put it, to do weed in a pipe, which I did when I was in my later days. But in my early days, we used to get the rollies. Now, they used to say rollies were good for you. Well, actual fact, the reason why people would get rollies is because they could roll whatever shit they wanted in. Some people would roll. You okay? Yep. Some people would roll a bit of like whatever they wanted, like cocaine, heroin, whatever they wanted to roll. Well, not heroin. Heroin was usually done with steroids. That was another drug that we did, but we never got thrown out for steroids because it was all hidden in a syringe. You could hide the stuff in the syringe, but weed you couldn't really hide in the syringe. And I had a DVD case at the time, and my mother just was cleaning up my room and just tidying up the DVD cases, and she found a stash of weed. Obviously, I left out or something. And it was about to get rolled in a cigarette. I thought, oh, where's my shit? Where's my stash? I didn't go, Mum, where's my stash? That would have gone down well, but no, what happened was a couple of weeks after, because I did have more weed hidden, she didn't find that, luckily. But she was like, Andrew, down here now. So I'm like, oh, shit, what have I done? Because I'd had an argument with my brother, just like a kind of sibling type argument. But what happened was, my mum was like, you're turning into Callum. And I was like, I'm not turning into Callum, Mum. I'm literally not. And she said, you are. She said, I've seen it. I said, what have you seen? She said, explain that stash you have hidden in your DVD box. Oh, gosh. I'm like, oh, shoot, what she found? You know? And, I mean, my father, my biological, he used to hide stuff in books. So she was literally, you know, so that's like, you know, and I was like, oh, come on, you know. And I was like, look, weeds seem to be more acceptable. They're doing it in whatever they're doing it in. And she said, I don't want that trash in my house. She said, you either... she said, I don't want this trash in my house, and why you're doing it, I can't remember what else. So I said, all right, I'll leave then. So I just packed my stuff in a pillowcase and left and stayed at my friend's, but it wasn't as simple as that. Because then I had another argument with my friend and his mum, and my mum got involved with that argument too, and luckily my brother saved my bacon, but I nearly ended up with a broken nose. Yeah, not what you want, really.
Mic trigger. 654. Mic trigger. Mic lock. Button. Mic lock. Mic lock. Button. Is on. Double.
So I nearly ended up with a broken nose, and then my brother's like,
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Button. Mic lock. Mic lock.
so then you went to your friend's house.
6:56 p.m.
We're gonna have to do a part 2, I think. So I went to my friend's house. Well, I couldn't live there. I was sofa hopping from friend to friend, and then, which generally is like, it's like being homeless, you know. But it's not as bad as like sleeping in a bus shelter or cardboard box or anything. But you have done that. I did when I was 19, but that's another story. And there was a friend of mine said, "Oh, I've got a flat which I'm moving to wherever it is. I got a flat. It's not great, but it's called the Forum, and it's in Ormskirk." Like, oh, cool, you know. And it's like they're like student apartments. They were like, there's a kitchen and a bathroom and like a bedroom and like a living space. And that's all you had. It was like my friend's flat. It was but then, like, you know, living was very basic. And I got to know a load of people in the Forum who, some of them were, there was a couple of druggies in there, and there was quite a few alcoholics in there. Amongst those were like students leaving, trying to sort of make ends meet, really, and that was kind of their step into the world. There was a couple of like student nurses there. There was a few, well, they just got jobs, but they kind of didn't have, so it's real sort of basic. And yeah, and then I had to sort of move my brother in with me, which for a little while, it was about 7 months. I mean, I lived in the Forum for like 2 years of my life, and it was a very, I stayed there till I was about 18 and a half, and I moved out and never looked back. I mean, my brother went to live in like, what do they call it? He went to live in a warehouse. And he's lived worse situations than me. I've only lived in, say, hostels and, say, gone that far. But yeah. We'll do a part 2, and in part 2 I think we'll talk about the riot that happened in the security firm that you worked at. That was quite interesting. That was a very interesting story. Oh yeah, about all the gangsters, and yeah. Well, there was 2 raids there when I worked at this security place in Manchester. I worked for a guy called Bob Fernan, who was a gangster. He was a horrible guy. Real cynical natured. He was cold, and I mean cold, and that was just how he was. Okay, well, we'll hear more about that in another video.
Mic trigger. 7:01 p. Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish recording.